the research that I've been studying lately is showing that a lot of the neurological diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's have a direct relationship to the amount of high fructose corn syrup and the refined sugars that we're eating. But other foods, pomegranate, dark chocolate, cherries, all kinds of different, red wine, all kinds of different things that are going to be anti-inflammatory to the body. But anything in the middle of that store, if it's been refined in any way or processed, it is going to inflame your gut. It's going to inflame your bones. It's going to inflame every one of the 11 systems in your body.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. So you're walking through the grocery store and you're thinking about what groceries you want to buy for the week. You're thinking about what you might want to make for dinner. You're thinking about what you might want to snack on. And in the back of your mind, you're also thinking about what's healthy, because you don't want to get foods in the house that's going to tempt you to wreck your diet. So what kind of foods should you choose? Should you choose foods that are low calorie, low fat, low sugar, all of the above? Well, our guest for today has a completely different answer. He wants you to choose foods that fight inflammation. Like inflammation, what does that have to do with anything? Well, it could have to do with why you're not losing weight, why your health isn't what it should be, even why you look older. And our guest, Dr. Brent Hudson, is going to show us how. Dr. Hudson is a professor of anatomy and physiology. He's a travel and health writer, a wellness consultant, a speaker, and a global travel researcher who has studied the best health behavior in 35 different countries. He's currently the CEO of the Wellness Epicenter in Bradenton Beach, Florida. Welcome, Dr. Hudson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Amy.
So I got to start out with the most important question of all. So most of us have just been hammered home with this message that weight loss is a simple equation of eat less, move more. How well do you think that works for people?
I think that's a great foundation to start with, but it's really an oversimplified version of what we should focus on. So I really have a mantra of eating more and moving less in some ways. And the way that we do that is by the choices that we make. You know, you're talking about the supermarket. Cornell University has done a study that says that we make 221 decisions a day just about food. So that means that 221 decisions we can screw up, or even if we do, we have the opportunity the very next day to rectify it and change it. So the good news is, in the supermarket, if you stay in the perimeter for the most part and stay away from the middle where 80% of the garbage foods are, the packaged, processed, and preserved foods are that cause inflammation, you're going to be okay.
So one of the things though we tend to hear is that when we're picking foods, we need to make sure and look at the calories. We need to make sure to look at the fat. We need to basically pick the diet foods. But when we eat diet foods, we don't lose weight. So what are we doing wrong?
Well, one of the things that we really should focus on is what's called nutrient-dense foods. And if you look up on the internet, the beauty of the internet is that you have the availability at your fingertips to just look at long lists of things that you can instantly grab onto and change your diet. And so some of the top things on the list would be, the most nutrient-dense foods would be things like kale and watercress and collard greens. Well, not too many people have that in their diet. You know, those are just things that are in the supermarket that people don't pay much attention to. But the beauty in that is that we can actually eat in abundance because there's such low-calorie foods and there's such high-powered foods that we can eat a ton of it and not gain any weight at all because we're getting all the nutrients that we need. Obviously, there's a lot of other fruits and vegetables there, cauliflower, broccoli, and things that a lot of people typically will eat once in a while, but they don't really look at it as being a staple snack in their diet.
So this is the philosophy behind eat more, move less. You're actually eating more, but you're eating more of nutrient-dense foods and not diet foods.
Correct, Amy. It's incredible the amount of food that you can eat in a day I always liken myself to a gorilla in the Congo or a rhinoceros, is that when I feel the most strong or the most strength in my body and the most energetic are the days where I've eaten the most greens. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm close to it, but I'm not a vegetarian, and I don't profess to people that they should become a vegetarian. But the more you stay away from a lot of the meats and the more you orient yourself towards a plant-based diet, the more power you're going to get out of it. Gorillas and rhinoceroses are some of the strongest animals on the planet. And all they do is nibble on greens all day long.
Wow. So that's not, because we are living in the days of, like keto and paleo and very meat heavy. I want to talk to you about what you talked about before, inflammation. So how does meat, how do plants, how do all these things affect inflammation?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of truth in the fact that a lot of red meats will stagnate in your gut, in your GI tract, and you don't want food to stay in there for a long period of time. It needs to be flushed out within 24 hours. So when things stagnate, the lining of the GI tract often gets inflamed. And this is the topic that we're talking about today, is inflammation. So inflammation is going to start right from the very moment that you put something into your mouth. If it's an inflammatory food, which most red meats can be, depending on how the cattle was raised, and this is why I stick more to fish as my sole source of protein, or eggs. I'm not a true vegetarian. I think they term it an ovo-pescatarian, where I still eat eggs and fish, but for the most part, it's all greens. But with inflammation, it starts in the GI tract and the lining. What happens is all those packaged, processed, and preserved foods, those box foods that people are eating every day, which are high in high fructose corn syrups and 56 different forms of refined sugars, will destroy the lining of your gut. It destroys the cells, the connections between the two cells, and not only does it allow leakage of toxic material into your bloodstream, which is not good for your immune system, but also it allows this fructose, this concentrated sugar, to get into your bloodstream, which bypasses the normal mechanisms of insulin. Insulin is supposed to put sugar into your cells for energy, but fructose has no relation to insulin whatsoever. So what does the body do with all this fructose, this sugar from all this packaged, processed, and preserved foods? The liver has to store it somewhere. So it either stores it in the liver itself or it stores it as belly fat. And that's bad news for us. So even if you're eating lower calorie foods and you think that you're eating less, you still are eating more, because all of this food is going to get converted to fat, especially if you're not exercising.
That's terrifying.
It is. And then the inflammation goes even further than that, because as soon as you put this food on your tongue, your brain already senses it. And then once it makes its way into the bloodstream, it just has incredibly damaging effects on your central nervous system. So your brain, being the most sensitive organ in your body, is hit really hard. And the research that I've been studying lately is showing that a lot of the neurological diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's have a direct relationship to the amount of high fructose corn syrup and the refined sugars that we're eating.
Wow. So this goes a lot further than belly fat. This is actually your health overall, and maybe even your future.
And the belly fat, getting back to that, it's bad enough that from an appearance standpoint, none of us like to have that excess on our gut, but it's becoming an American phenomenon that we're all getting used to, because it has to do with the direct relationship to the stuff that we're eating. But this belly fat, actually, once we reach a certain threshold of storage in our belly, this fat releases chemicals called cytokines, which travel through the blood, and they actually change the DNA structure of most cells in the body. And a lot of research is showing that this is where cancer is coming from. And on top of it, if we have a limited amount of belly fat, that's okay, because the belly fat actually releases certain chemicals that help with immunity. But once we reach a tipping point of excess fat in our belly, then our immune cells or those immune chemicals that are released are suppressed and our immunity goes down. So we actually can get sick just from overeating.
So the next question, a really important question, is how do we know what foods create inflammation and what foods fight it?
Well, if we just stick with the produce section, you are miles and miles ahead of everyone. I've really been focusing on even here at the office, because I do a lot of writing, a lot of communication. I tried to tell people not to sit at their desk and use a standing desk, but quite often I'm here stuck at the desk myself, immersed in getting things done. But I always make sure at the beginning of the week that I have several bags of cauliflower, broccoli, celery, carrots, apples, all cut up in little chunks, because if it's there, you will eat it. And at home, if you've bought foods that are not good, if they're in the pantry, they're going to get eaten. It's just a fact. You're going to be hungry at some point, and you're going to start nibbling and chopping on this bad food. The key is to not have it in there. Now, in Florida, we have problems with storms and hurricanes, and you have to have some storage just in case. In fact, a year and a half ago, we had a hurricane where we were without power for 2 weeks, and it was a little bit of a chore. It was a good thing that we had plenty of water and canned foods, but that's really the only reason that you should have it. But other foods, pomegranate, dark chocolate, cherries, all kinds of different, red wine, all kinds of different things that are going to be anti-inflammatory to the body. But anything in the middle of that store, if it's been refined in any way or processed, it is going to inflame your gut. It's going to inflame your bones. It's going to inflame every one of the 11 systems in your body. It's just a fact. The inflammation is a normal process in the body. It's the way the body heals itself in the short term, which should only last for a couple of days. Anything beyond that, if it stays inflamed, it's going to become chronic. And if you think of a scar on the outside of your skin, that's exactly what's happening on the inside of your body. Fibrosis and repair means scarring of internal cells, tissues, and organs. And what's the end result? Dysfunction of that tissue and organ, and ultimately disease of that tissue and organ. So inflammation is the single reason for pain, discomfort, and disease in every single part of the body.
So when we go buy those fruits and vegetables, do we need to be buying organic? Does that even come into it?
Well, I'm a big fan of organic. I don't really think that you need to get that particular, at least to get started. The key is to just get out there and start buying all that good stuff that's in the supermarket. You can always upgrade later. Organic typically is a little bit more expensive, but in the long run and in general, one of the things that I do with some of the patients and some of the people that I counsel here is I devised a way to go to the local supermarket. We have a supermarket here called Aldi, which is a German supermarket. I don't know if you have them out west, but it's a great place to go and get a really reasonably priced loads of plant food and fruits and vegetables and get started eating that every day. And, you know, when it comes to the cleaner fruits and vegetables, the organic versions, upgrade later. But you can save thousands and thousands of dollars by switching to plant-based diet. And you can still eat your meat. I'm not going to take that away from anybody. Carnivores tend to get a little irritable when they can't eat their meat. So we want them to be happy too, but we just want them to reduce the amount of meat that they eat.
Yeah. So what if somebody listening to this says, okay, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to eat as much fruits and veg as I can. What kind of results can they expect? Like, how fast does it happen? What have you seen like in your practice?
Well, with me personally, because for the last 10 years, I've really focused on optimizing my own diet, my own exercise routines. So I try to set a good example. But you're going to notice right away, within a day or two, if you start lightening the quantity of coffee that you drink or the amount of sugar that you eat or whatever, you're going to see your sugar levels stabilize. You're going to see your energy levels improve instantaneously. It's not going to be dramatic, but it will eventually be dramatic. And then you'll look back and you go, I can't believe that I ever was drinking or eating that stuff. In some of my college classes, I always subtly introduce the negative effects of sodas on the body with each system that we go through. And a lot of these students will drink Monster and Red Bull and all these really potent drinks. They bring them to class. At the end of the semester, there's just a bottle of water on their desk. Nobody is drinking any of this stuff, because I really like to highlight just how damaging this is, not only to each of us, but to the economy of the entire nation. And it may sound dramatic, but it really is. I've been in the health field for 31 years. I've been a fitness instructor. I've been a weight loss counselor. I've done every aspect of health. And I can tell you that 70% of our country is overweight or obese. 70% of our country is either pre-diabetic or diabetic. It all comes back to this inflammatory process, which is a direct result of the amount of refined foods that we're eating. It's just so destructive.
Yeah, so you actually have the Wellness Epicenter. This is where you counsel people and help people. Tell us a little bit about what the work you do there.
Well, I do face-to-face counseling. I do fitness instruction. I do weight loss counseling. But it really comes down to two things under the umbrella of lifestyle behavior. It's a mindset. And you either want to do it or you don't. Are you willing to put forth the effort to go, I'm going to change my diet and I'm going to get moving? Now, I have ways, I said earlier, eat more and move less. Well, there's efficient ways of moving less. You can get 15 minutes of exercise in a day, really high intensity interval training, just 1% of your day, 15 minutes. It's actually 14 minutes and 24 seconds is 1%, but everybody has time. And what I've learned over the years, patients say, I don't have time, or I eat good. And I go, if somebody tells me they eat good and they don't have time, that means they're not committed. They have no desire to learn anything, because I've been doing this forever and ever, and I'm still learning every day. And one of the things that's happened with my worldwide wellness chats is I'm learning about cultures and behaviors from people all over the world when they interact on these group chats, and it's just been phenomenal for me. I like Anthony.
Tell us about that. That's on LinkedIn, right?
That's on LinkedIn, under Doc Hudson. If you connect with me, I send invitations to about 30, 40 people each week. I end up with about 15 to 20 people involved in the group chat, because any more than that, it's just like in a classroom. I can't manage everybody's question, but I do counseling through the internet too. Now that we have Skype and Zoom, it's such a wonderful thing to have. And I'm just introducing this into my counseling session so I can do this face-to-face with people anywhere on the planet, which is unbelievable.
Fantastic. And for those of you watching, if you want to get involved, you want to connect with Dr. Hudson on LinkedIn, you want to maybe go, if you're in Florida, go pay him a visit, we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/wellness. That's yourbrilliance.org/wellness. Thank you, Dr. Hudson, for that fantastic introduction. And I wondered if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Eat more, move less. Get out there, make a change. And thank you for having me, Amy.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.